Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Welcome to Sunday night, the last hour of it at least. I hope you all are having a good Memorial Day weekend. I am going to remind myself, like a lot of people have to, there's no such thing as a happy Memorial Day. The words happy and memorial just generally don't go together. It's just Memorial Day. For those of you who I've been getting asked all day, the difference, because a lot of people still don't know, the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day is Memorial Day is for those who did not come home. It is for those that were lost in battle, fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that did not make it back home from whatever respective war that they were in. Veterans Day is for all of us living and dead. Veterans Day is for every veteran who's ever served, whether they, spent the entire lifetime in there or fought one conflict. You're a veteran. That's what Veterans Day for. So those of you who still have some slight misunderstanding what that might be, and it's a natural misunderstanding. I mean, I don't know how many times people came to me, or we were talking, say Happy Memorial Day, but given what Memorial Day is, the word happy I just don't think is appropriate for it. But I understand it rolls right off the tongue. A lot of times we have these holidays, and if nobody reinforces what they are about, then yeah, it's really easy to get caught up in the barbecue and the free food and the good weather. So, but yes, Memorial Day is for those for your war dead, and Veterans Day is for all of your veterans that ever served. So, all right. Usually the Sunday night show is pretty much a wrap-up show, open conversation show. We generally don't have a lot, but today, for good and bad reasons, we have we have several things to talk about. Obviously, as you saw when and if you had observed the thumbnail, you saw the passing of one of the greatest comic book writers to ever write, and Peter David. We'll go over his career. Also, we had two events today. We had NXT's Battleground. I never watch NXT, but I watched it because of the TNA connection today, and some of the matches are good. We also sadly had to watch Double or Nothing as opposed to actually being at Double or Nothing, since usually it is held here in Las Vegas, but because of WrestleMania, they decided to hold it in Arizona this year. So it's kind of surreal watching something that I am usually at. Right now, this time last year, I was still getting home. I was just getting home and getting in front of in front of the camera to give you guys a rundown. But this year, I am here, because I just couldn't justify going out there. I spent a lot of time and money on wrestling this year. All right, tonight's show and all this week, all the way up till June 6th, is brought to you by Liongate Films Ballerina. Taking place during the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, the film follows Eve Macaro Ana de Armas, who is beginning her training in the assassin traditions of the Rusko-Roma. Lionsgate presents a Thunder Road Films 8711 production. That is in theaters on June 6th. And for those of you lucky individuals that are here in Las Vegas that are able to come to the screening and come get shirts and posters and stuff like that, starting mid next week, I will be giving you the call to come down and get your picture taken and get your seat for Ballerina for our special screening that will be happening on June 2nd. I'm going to be there. I know a lot of other people are going to be there, but I know someone who is not going to be there. And that's Brad. What's up?
My middle finger is up.
Yeah, whatever.
He's going to do this video in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, until June 2nd. Now, what was I about to say? Oh, last night.
Remended, yeah.
Yeah,
that was a bit of a trip down the into the Twilight Zone around. Yeah.
For those of you who keep messaging me and asking me why I don't do open panels, go ahead and watch the last maybe 15, 20 minutes of last night's show.
Even with that reasoning, that doesn't usually happen. What happened last night?
But the potential for that to happen is always there. Last night was one of my favorite shows. One of our more watched shows in a long time. I have not made the decision to truncate that show and get rid of that ending, but who knows? I have been busy today. I hope if you guys do watch the show, you watch the show in its entirety. That last segment of it is not representative of the quality conversations that we had for the other almost three and a half some odd hours of it. So, but yeah, it was a fun show. But yeah, for last night reinforced why we are going to use the whole panel thing very sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to talk about like floating dead bodies and
it might be another 6 or 7 months.
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, it might be another 6 or 7 months before I do an open panel. One of the reasons, and Omega Swiper is not back. He was just having fun. But one of the reasons I don't like doing them is because they shape. I spend time organizing a show. I spend time putting together a thumbnail. I spend time putting the content and doing the research on whatever we're going to talk about. And you spend that kind of time on a show just to basically throw things in the random chaos. And that ends up a lot of the times, defining the show that I spent time on. And I just don't want to do that anymore. I mean, why, even with the open mics, we don't do them because you lend the show to chaos. You don't know what some random person is going to just blurt out, and sometimes it's fun, but sometimes it becomes, like I said, you go an entire 90% of 4 hours having something that's really you want people to go home and think about. Like, I mean. Just before that, I was talking, telling people, hey, I want you to tell me how you feel about the music that we're presenting to you, or is this something that's brand new? That's what I want you to take away from the show. What the comics that we were talking about and reading, did you pick them up? Did you read them? What did you think about them? That's what I want you to take away from the show, not a bunch of talking heads screaming at each other. There's plenty of that on YouTube, and I'm not saying that's an awful thing, but you start your own platform to do your thing so that the platform and the show that you produce is reflective of you. Chaos is not reflective of me. So that's why people keep asking me, well, how come we don't do this anymore? Because when we watch the shows, it kind of made me sick. I mean, I just want to, and I like the people that we have on our panels, don't get me wrong. I don't like what it adds to the show for the most part, which is why we haven't done them for a while. Probably won't be doing them for very many times unless the occasion calls for it.
And Aaron points out, I just looked this up, Aaron. That little movie perp. Drogo was just on his last stream, and I'm actually going to be on. We're finally doing that kung fu movie fanboy celebration stream. He's wanted to do with me for a while. I'm going to be doing that on a Little Movie Perps channel tomorrow. But looking at this right now, he Drogo went on the panel for the last show, and they were talking about that really esoteric like last 20 minutes or so. And oh yeah, well, because William was ready to end it, and then we like had the open panel, and then the open panel like turned into like this big like red pill like mind fuck.
So instead of the word being spread about the content that we had, that's see what I mean? The perception of last night's show sounds like a fucking circus, and it wasn't that. So I hope you guys who hear about last night's show watch that show for what it was. And I might just leave it as in its entirety so I don't have to answer the open panel question anymore. I'll just be like, go to the May 24th show and just watch the last 20 minutes, and you'll understand why it will probably be a very long time down the calendar before we do it again. Yeah. So
speak of the devil, Omega Swiper. The other subject I didn't do, William, was more boring. The invention of the AI amphib Batcopter. It goes underwater.
All right. Irrational. I saw your. I don't have enough room in the show to talk about that right now.
Oh yeah, I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, I did see the popcorn buckets, but if it's for
and apparently it's project. Like what was a scrap, but apparently it had it been used, it would have like set up some kind of MCU connection with Madam Web. So.
Well, that was the original movie that they were writing. They got scared.
Yep.
They got scared. True. Marvel can't tell Sony what to do with those IPs. They changed their movie because they were so heavily dependent on Tom Holland's Spider-Man that they're scared to use the IP that they own. They sabotaged their own movie. So, now that I know that was a fact, I'm like, whatever. Okay, fuck. I was hoping nobody would ask me about this.
But, this of course ruffled some feathers today. Because there was the planned screening or the Schumacher cut, and
which should have never. I can't believe you guys. I love and respect all of you guys who are mad about this. I can't believe this is taking longer than 10 seconds to figure out why this was shut down. They're lucky they didn't get sued. And this has nothing to do with how I feel about anybody's cut. You got to use some common sense here.
What? But so it sounds like they didn't have like clearance from the studio, which is like okay,
no. There's no sounds like they did not.
Well,
you don't get a cease and desist if you have clearance.
Well, yeah, and it was the news about it was so widespread, and so the announcement had such energy behind it. I mean, it gave the impression they had permission from the studio to do this.
How do you get within 11 days? And like I said, I don't know who these people are who are putting this together, and I feel awful for you. But my question is to them, how do you get within 11 days without getting explicit clear? There's a process for this. I've done it. Trust me. We've worked with a manner of a whole bunch of studios. We worked with Lionsgate. We worked with Trauma. We worked with IFC. We had a licensing agreement back from 2011 to 2014 where we would pay a certain fee to get permission to show IFC films before they were released on streaming. Rocky Horror Picture Show. Every time we do the Rocky Horror Picture Show, we have to get explicit permission from Criterion and Fox themselves. Every time we show any Star Wars film, and we do it when we get it's called a public performance license, is what you have to get. You have to get that. There's no way around that. If you don't get one,
you cannot legally show the movie in question.
A cease and desist is the kindest thing that they can send you. Technically, you are infringing on copyright now. If you are, even if you don't charge money, somebody said, well, if they had not charged money, no, absolutely not. That just determines the cut that the studio gets. If we were going to do a charity stream for like Justice League or anything like that, I have to get a hold of Warner Brothers. I have to fill out. I can bring up the forum. I have it at the store. You can bring up the forum. It's a public performance license, and there's a bunch of stuff that you fill out, and it has to be minimum. The latest you're supposed to be able to sit that in is 21 days.
And by the way, to add to that, I mean, I have talked to my local theater about just more hypothetical, like, hey, like with the Snyder Cut, like what would it take to like do like a one night showing of this? And they said pretty much what Williams said, yeah, we need to contact the studio, you need to fill out paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. And it has to be like sooner than, like that's 10 days or so before it's supposed to happen.
We're working on a screening with the new Toxic Avengers that Lionsgate sold to another theater. We're working with that outlet to get it so that we can bring Lloyd Kaufman out. The guy created the character in question, and we still have to go through the motions. We still have to go, if I wanted to do a John, the only time they lessen the rules is if, okay, so for instance, we are legally promoting Ballerina, right? And they give me parameters to say, give us your proposal of how you want to promote this movie. And then I say, well, I want to do a John Wick marathon. They will explicitly, you don't have to fill anything out then, because that's part of a promotion. It's encompassed within a promotion. Like when we did for Godzilla versus Kong, if we weren't promoting Godzilla versus Kong, we would have had to pay. When I put on a drive-through, when I did this thing, I had to go to Swank Motion Pictures. That's the middle ground third party who licenses it. So it's a process that if you've rented a theater, if you've gotten this close to doing this, I don't know how you get within that range of it happening. I don't even know how you get within 90 days of it happening without that. That's the most important check mark you have to have. And people are vilifying. I know it's easy to vilify Warner Brothers. And I've seen all the reasons in the world that everybody's pissed off. None of them are the right reasons. They're like, well, they're greedy. First of all, if you own the IP, end of discussion. The legalities of it aren't, do you like the people who own the IP? Do you feel the IP is going in the right direction? Do you want to see another version? That is nothing. That means absolutely nothing. If Warner Brothers owns the IP and they own that representation of the IP, they are 100% within their rights to shut it down.
And by the way, to interject real quick, William says, specifically saying like owning the IP, the only other kind of loophole as far as like a public showing, that I could think of would be if the movie in question is in public domain. So for
that example, is it.
So like for example, we did a watch party a while back of the original Night of the Living Dead, in 1968, and we were able to put it on the screen because that movie is in public domain.
Yeah, Nosferatu, films like that. The only time you cannot use a public domain movie is if somebody has altered the version and made that particular version theirs. Like Giorgio Moroder did his own version of Metropolis. That belongs to the company that did the work on that. But the concept and all that is public domain. Now, and people and it goes down like back to the Star Trek thing where they had people doing fan films. Most of the times the owner of the IP they have other things to do. But at any point in time, if they own the IP, they can shut you down, and that's it. That's it. And the reason why the court is always going to be on their side is because they have to control the perception of the IP. They just can't let people be showing versions of your property. That is their property, whether we like it or not. That would be like me, the Sci-Fi Center Presents, making a movie, and then Brad going out there and say, you know what? I want this cut of the movie out there. Brad has no right to represent. I mean, he kind of does because he's part of the show, but I'm just using an example. No random person has the right to misrepresent you when you own the IP and have legal control. I don't know why this was even a thing today.
Well, like even that scenario, I mean, because it's like if I was not actively involved with the making of whatever William did, it's like, even if I co-host a show with him, it's like you can still probably hit me with the cease and desist because it's still taking
because it's the Sci-Fi Center it's a direct,
I wasn't a part of that. I'm a part of I'm adjacently connected in that situation because I co-host the show with William, but I didn't help make that movie that I'm taking. Saying, okay, I'm showing this to everybody now without talking to William.
Yeah, and I'm going up and down just to look, and people are like, I mean, they're calling. There's a lot of reasons to call certain executives and certain branches a lot of names. I'm sorry, but this isn't one of them. This is a legal open and shut book. I wish they had gone through the motion. They would have probably been shut down anyway, because guess what? In the owner of the IP, does not have to explain to you why they don't want certain versions of it out there.
Rhea's got a good question here. I'm confused because Kevin Smith, and by the way, hi Rhea, because Kevin Smith apparently did a screening. I guess I think we could probably infer from this. Now, I don't know though, because
Kevin Smith more than likely
got the permission.
He had permission and agreed to certain stipulations.
Yeah, because when he announced it, he still kind of danced around and said, "Hey, if you come to this theater at this time, we may or may not show this version of Batman Forever." So there was still a lot of fine print to it, but
and more than likely, Kevin Smith as a movie maker who deals with these execs had some sort of permission and lead up to, and but most of the time, the IP holder is not going to, okay, so Brad's showing the Snyder Cut or his version of the Snyder Cut at his house, and he's added some stuff. That's fine. Brad's showing the Schumacher Cut at his house. Yeah, they can shut him down. They can send him a cease and desist order. Once you start going full-blown advertisement, and here's the problem with, even though legally they can shut it down from minute 1, second 1 immediately, right? Most of the time they don't until it gets big. And the reason,
it's like 5 people in my living room. It's like they're not going to care about that.
The reason why IP holders shut down fan stuff and things like that when it comes big, because there's a such thing, in their opinion, called IP confusion. Because the only person that is going to be able to properly represent the IP is the person who is liable and in control of the IP. If you go out and spend $1 million to promote the Schumacher Cut, and I'm here making Batman content, there's only one liable person that's on the hook for that IP. There's only one person that paid for that IP. There's only one person that can license that IP out. But now your perception, once you let the perception of your IP and the control of your IP go outside of the people who are lawfully supposed to be controlling it, you have random, unpredictable things that can happen now. And you can't let that happen. You have to shut that down. And it really doesn't matter what it is. If you don't own the IP, you can't do things at this scale. You just can't.
To kind of illustrate that further, that's why Zack Snyder could not just release his cut of Justice League independently that whole time. It's like he was trickling stuff out. He was teasing. People were campaigning, but he could not during that period of the campaign. He couldn't just say, "I'm just releasing my cut of my own volition of this movie," because it's under Warner Brothers as the intellectual property holder of DC. It requires their stamp of approval to release that version of it.
Yeah, because no one wants, I don't care how rich you are, it's up to, I think, a $500,000 copyright infringement. You could be bankrupted. You could be bankrupted. And then, like I said, if you read up and down the responses, it's like, some people got it. Some people are like, well, they own it. So that's but everyone's like, right there's a great.
I get that end of it, but what I don't get is pretty much the same thing you don't get. It's like, okay, well, why did you even make this announcement at this level without getting clearance from the studio?
You listen. I may be the dumbest person you all know, but trust me, I'm not. I can't do it. I can't afford to get hit, and they will hit you. Now, in this case, they did it before there was even damage done, because once they showed it, if they would have shown it, that's the actual act. With Warner Brothers did it, said cease and desist, don't do this, and as long as you complied, that's it. Now, what they could still do, but I don't even know if Warner Brothers wants this version out there though. We're assuming that they're okay with this version being out.
Well, it's even if, that's kind of irrelevant to as far as just because if it were already out there, it's like and it would be the same thing. It's like, okay, you want to do it?
No, absolutely not, absolutely not. You still have to get explicit
that's what I'm saying. It's like if it had been released today and somebody wanted to do a big public showing like this, you would still have to go through the channels.
But that's not where the fire is being thrown at them, though. The fire is being thrown at them for the wrong reason.
But what I'm saying is that as far as whether or not this should not be read as an indication of whether or not of what the likelihood of it being released is, because it's whether if
what version of it is is this there is if this isn't their property, who put this together for release? You see what I mean?
You mean like who organized the showing?
Who put what version of this? Who produced this version of this? Is it explicitly the one that would have been even authorized by? Because once you alter somebody's IP, that's another thing.
Is there?
Yeah, that's my question. I don't. This is an actual question. I don't know.
There's a concern they added or subtracted.
I don't know. But see, this is the kind of question. All of these questions. Every single one of these questions that we just spent the last whatever minute at, you have to ask those questions before the fact. I've gone through the process about 400 times. Even the only time, even for movies, okay, so we would show Japanese movies that did not have an American distributor, but we still had to do our due diligence and email every Tom, Dick, and Harry just to make sure that there wasn't that one guy who owned the copyright. And a lot of times we would get emails back from people who temporarily had the rights to that just to make DVDs and stuff, but they no longer had it in the US. And then we would email like the Philippines, we would email way overseas, and they would be like, yeah, it's our movie, but we don't have a distributor in the US. Go ahead. And I would make sure I got that email. And that's how we would run. But the bigger movies we've done, when we would show, we would show humans with like Human Centipede, I had to pay for that. I had to pay for that license. You're muted. I had to contact IFC Films.
I'm almost afraid to ask how much you had to pay for that.
I can't remember. It's been 10, 15 years ago. But it was a healthy amount, but we knew we were going to sell it out. So I 1, 2, and 3 for that movie, I paid for the public performance rights to show those movies. Not only that, once you do a public performance, once you are approved, no one within 30 miles of you can do it. When you get the right permissions, not only are you getting the permission, but you're also protected. So there are non-theatrical rights and there are theatrical rights. Like us showing it at the Sci-Fi Center and inside the Sci-Fi Center, that's a non-theatrical. That's a different set of rights. You still have to get the permission. But when we are doing it in a theater, like when we're renting a theater out and we're putting somebody else's movie in there, that's theatrical. So that's another set of rights. And it's some paperwork to look at and fill out. Once you get the hang of it, it's basically you just change the names because you're generally dealing with the same people. Like Warner Brothers and Disney, all these people, they're going to have an intermediate. They're going to have an intermediate after, after the original market is done. So once something is out of the theaters, which Batman Forever is technically something that's been in the theaters, even no matter what cut it is, it's technically an IP that's been in the theaters. So there's a third party person that you get a hold of, and you fill out the application. A lot of times they have the right to approve it right at the Criterion or Swank level. Sometimes for like Rocky Horror Picture Show, when we do it in a big theater, it goes to Fox because Fox and Disney, because they now own the IP. Star Wars, they do different pricings. For May 4th, if you want to show Star Wars, you got to it goes straight to Fox, and they approve you. And they ask you a bunch of questions. Are you going to be doing anything along with it? Are you going to be selling merchandise along with it? Are you charging? And if you're charging for it, I don't know if these guys were charging, but if you're charging for it, they get a percentage of that.
Yeah, I would imagine they were charging for it.
Yeah. So if they get what it is you get it's a flat fee. So it's either a flat fee minimum, usually for a movie like that is $450 to $500 flat fee, or half of the gate, whichever is more. So if you do 1,000 people and you do $10,000 gate, then they get 5,000. If you do anything lower than a certain amount, then they just get that flat amount. They're guaranteed that flat amount, and that's for smaller theaters. But for bigger ones, and certain IPs are going to be more expensive than others at given times. So, for instance, if I wasn't promoting, if I wanted to do Superman or something like that, and I wanted to show Man of Steel, right? I wanted to show the Snyder Cut. There is a form that I have to fill out. And it has to be like way in advance, by the way. They don't want you waiting 3 weeks because
like with Superman coming out in July, if you want like in that scenario, you probably would have to start right now.
I'm not, because we're already going to get permission to do it. Just like with when we were promoting Justice League. they asked us what do you want to show, and I said let's do BBS, let's do the extended cut in the story. Same thing with Blade Runner. I would have given my kidney to show him Blade Runner, but I didn't have to. We were promoting Blade Runner 2049, so they had us show. And if you look, guys, you look at, and this is, I know a lot of people may think I don't know what I'm talking about on a lot of different things. Maybe not. No, I do, because I've done the process, I've done the paperwork, and I feel awful for these guys that were getting this together, that somebody didn't
well, I mean,
jump in and say, hey,
somebody didn't cross their T's and dot their I's on this. I mean, it's really simple as that.
And you like I said, and I don't know the inner workings of who I don't know these people. I don't wish them any ill. But if you get a cease and desist, that tells you pretty much enough about what was going on. To now, let's say, provided that Warner Brothers is okay with the version, or they produce the version. If Warner Brothers didn't produce the version, then it's dead on arrival. But if it's a version of Warner Brothers property, let's say they wanted that, just say hypothetically, if they wanted it for public access, right? Let's say they did. I don't think they do, but if they did, even still, I know people that have gotten cease and desist for showing things that went back to the negotiation and said, hey, sorry, we missed a step.
And that might very well happen.
Want to do this. Yeah. If Warner Brothers is okay with what they are showing, they have to be okay with this showing. I'm starting to think that the cease and desist was more of they don't want it out there. I'm going to make a guess. I'm not on the inside of anything. I think that the cease and desist is they don't want that version of, just the same reason why if I show Fantastic Four, the Corman version in the lead up, I'm going to get a cease and desist.
Well, that was, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. But that's where we have this big gap. And like, okay, these guys, did they like do this without understanding the proper channels? Did they like miss a step or miss a deadline or something? And that's why they got cease and desist.
Well, they don't usually send, because I've missed deadlines. And we just get stern reminders that, hey, just make sure before you push play that, because usually if you missed a deadline, you've already started the process. Like I said, and I don't want to speak on their behalf because I don't know these guys. All I know is by their own words is they got a cease and desist 11 days before they were supposed to do this. And I'm assuming that there's no malice there. I'm assuming that they just didn't understand the process because they're advertising it. And if you're advertising it, you have to know that it's going to see the way they catch you is once they're on everywhere. They're everywhere. They have eyes and ears everywhere. And then the internet, you can't advertise these things without getting on the internet. They have a keyword hunter. They have their own program to make sure that people aren't showing their stuff. Every studio has it. I had a studio find me because I got permission from a studio that thought they had the rights to show the Man Who Fell to Earth. When David Bowie died, we wanted to get together and we wanted to have a screening of the Man Who Fell to Earth, right? So we reached out to somebody who had it in their catalog and we licensed it, only to be reached out to by Rialto Pictures, who did own it. And they were like, no, that's our movie. We're going to need you to either, you have two choices. You can, not show it, or you can get it licensed through us. And the reason why they were able to do that, because when David Bowie passed away, they had the keywords waiting for us. So anybody who's doing anything David Bowie, their little algorithm hunter found us. And that's how he told me. That's how I found you. I hit my little button. I did a search, Sci-Fi Center, showing a Man Who Fell to Earth. And I told him, okay, you know what? Am I being scammed here? Because and he pulled up all of his stuff. I was able to check out all the copyrights, who owned the copyright. I got a refund from the company that thought they had it. They took it off their catalog, turned around and gave it to that guy. We did our movie. But yeah, there's a process, and sometimes it takes a while. That's why they always tell you, like for Rocky, every time we do Rocky Horror Picture Show, like we're doing one next month, I have to have, they want that approval 21 days. There are times if you work with the same people, like I work with the same person at Criterion and Fox, I work with the same guy all the time. We've done enough business together so that they understand, they know if I miss a deadline, if I'm late, they know it's coming. They're not going to pull my license. Because another thing, even once you get a license, if you do anything, because you agree, the one page is a license. The next page is how you advertise. Once you are licensed by one of these guys, there are explicit terms of how you advertise. There are certain things you cannot do, and certain things you can do. I'll give you example for Rocky Horror. You cannot do mass media marketing for Rocky Horror. You can do flyers, but you can't do print ads. Like we would like to want to do print ads. No, you can't do that. There are certain things that like you can't advertise this version. Like say we're doing Superman or doing something like that. You can't advertise this with this. A lot of reason is because they have licensed out temporarily the likenesses to other people, and they don't want you violating their agreements with other people. There are a certain window of time. You can only show it at certain time of night. Because guess what? In order for you to be able to get your license in here and somebody else to get our licensing in there, we told them they could go ahead and do their thing from 10 to 12, and your window is from 8 to 10. There's a lot of things, and you agree, you initial to all that. I put that WSP next to all of that. And once you sign it, you're on the hook. And if they find that you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, like there's a reason why I can't do Rocky Horror commercials on here when I do, because you can't do it. It's against their bylaws. And so if I were to do something after I signed that and I had a license going in the next Saturday, they can yank that license. And it says right there in fine print. There's a lot of fine print on these agreements, by the way, because of the legalities involved. It's literally a license, but what it's called is a public performance license, is what you need to do that. And usually if there are any problems with whether the intent of the studio, you're going to find out right there and then. You're going to get a no, and you'll get a why. You're going to know, no, we don't want. A lot of times, I wanted to show a version of one film that was being remade, right? So I'm like, hey, you know what? I think it would be kind of cool if we showed this version if I wasn't promoting it with them. And they're like, no, we have decided we don't want this version out here while we're doing something with this version here. And they don't give you a big soliloquy of a why. That's their answer, and you ain't getting a return email if you say, but why? No, that's it. So yeah, I feel awful for regardless of what I feel about any particular cut. I know what it means to plan something and have it be shut down. It fucking hurts. It sucks. It sucks. It's one of the worst feelings you can have. No matter what the reason is, to plan something and to get within 21 days once you're inside of 21 days, that's go time. I call that the red zone. Because there's certain things you start doing, you shift from that promotion element of it to that let's get ready. Everything that you do in the public takes permission. Our wrestling event is on a property that I rent from. I had to get layers and then layers and layers of permission. Whenever you do anything that accesses the public or puts something out in the public, rest assured there is a permission scheme that you got to go through, and a lot of it is for your own good, because you may unwillingly be violating something you don't know about, and nobody has the money to get sued. You turn out, you make a bunch of money off of something like that. You pay out, you end up paying out people that helped you out, set up things, and you turn around and you get hit with the very least that they take. It's okay. What did you make that night? Okay, we want that. Plus, we're going to fine you. A lot of times, you can negotiate, but you got I just, like I said, my question is, and I don't want to assume more than what we know, but my question is how what was the thought process of not, did you get permission from somebody who said they had permission? Because that can happen. Like I said, I just mentioned something where I got permission from somebody who thought they had control of the IP and they did not. I don't know enough about the situation, but I saw all the hate and I'm like, well, yeah, that of course that's going to happen. You're muted again.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if you got some more details in the next couple of days out of this for like the theater that's going to show. It comes out and says, hey, like, we thought we had the green light, but somebody else stepped in and said, no, we're going to have to back this off. And
that's another thing is the theater, they're involved in this process too.
And that was interesting because I was just reading up a little bit more about this. Apparently, the cease and desist was sent directly to the theater that was going to show it.
Yes, because individuals don't get cease and desist orders like that because individuals don't have the liability. See, once you enter in an agreement and it's with the venue. So for me, I was all encompassing for what we were doing. I was the venue and I was the licensee. But when I take something to Galaxy Boulevard or if I take something to Tropicana Theaters, once you go into a theatrical performance like that, a theatrical venue, the theater, from way I understand the way we used to do in the past, the theater assumes that liability because it's the theater. They're the ones that are insured liability-wise to take on a massive. So if you own it, like I got like millions of dollars in insurance at the store, right? Heaven forbid nothing happens. I never need it. But a individual hosting something, he can have, a certain amount of insurance, but it's going to be me. So usually they enter into these agreements. The individual can do the application and everything else with the theater, but it's generally the licensor is going to deal with what we call the exhibitor. The theater, when you on the contract, the theater is called the exhibitor. So if the exhibitor is a actual theater with a box office, they're going to deal with them because there's a different level of liability that an individual has when it comes to following these rules. And the theaters generally know because a lot of theaters show vintage stuff that they have to go back and get. I'm thinking that this just may be a misunderstanding. And you know what? I hope in best case scenario, it's a misunderstanding and they get it worked out. But that's also assuming that Warner Brothers wants this out. See, that's the one thing I would have to know about too, because the cease and desist could be as much about we just don't want this out in circulation right now. And that's 100% they're right. So there's a lot I don't know about the situation, but I know enough about the process and having gone through it that there are certain things you absolutely have to do in order to not get a cease and desist. So I feel bad for anybody who's going through that, but it's just, yeah. And there are people who can bypass this, obviously, but generally those are people that their names. When you say this person's name and they're doing something, them, and they got buddies in the system. Like a Kevin Smith is going to know several people.
Or like theoretically, if Schumacher himself were still around.
If Schumacher himself, he would probably have, a Nolan could probably pull something off like this because of that. But like, just individuals that are not in that industry, in that level, it's going to be tough. Like I said, usually the way I've seen people skirt the system is they keep it on the down low. But once that signal gets out there, they're going to see that signal and they're going to be like, okay, if it got to us, if we heard about your thing, that means other people have heard about your thing. Now there's brand confusion. Now you are putting the client, the customer, in a position to where they're going to automatically assume everything you're doing with this IP we own is with the explicit representation and approval of us. And if it's not, then they can't have it happening. I mean,
quick one I want to answer from Aaron. So in that case, someone in America who show life after fighting against American. Actually, no, Aaron.
No,
it does. Well, it has American distributors. Vertical Entertainment handled it over here. I don't know if they handled it in Australia or if that was another local one, but no, it does have American distribution over here. So
yeah, most of the stuff that's released modern is going to either have an American distributor or there'll be a kicker that comes in to where if somebody did want to license it, there's a parent company that they like a Sony or somebody out there for the explicit purposes of public performance that they would have. There would be a middleman to pay.
Yeah.
So back in the 2009, 2010, we didn't have that, but now they all have it.
So yeah, Aaron, to answer that, no, I can't just go to my theater and I message Bren Foster and say, hey, I'm showing you your movie over at my theater and I'll tell you how people like it. It's like, no, I'd have to call a distributor for that too. So fortunately.
Yeah, but like I said, it can become a complicated situation. Sometimes there's negotiations. Sometimes you don't get an outright yes or no. You a lot of times you'll ask for permission and you'll get a bunch more questions. What are your intentions? How are you planning to advertise this? And you a lot of times, if it's a big leverage movie, you have to send them your advertising plan.
Well,
so that they can thumbs up and thumbs down it,
Well, and here's a good, for something as far as like something high profile for that. I mean, you did when Zack Snyder's Justice League was coming out. I mean, you had the showing in the Sci-Fi Center. So did you have to do a whole bunch of coordination with Warner Brothers for that? I'm assuming you did, or were they HBO Max?
No, because we had already we were in promotion. That was considered a promotion. So the same people who
because it was just coming out. So.
Yeah, so basically we actually tagged them. We actually tagged those guys because we were doing so in promotion of not just that movie. We were doing in promotion of all their other movies, and they viewed it as a promotion, and
they I mean they want, I mean, at least as far as the HBO Max side of things, I mean the AT&T people, I mean they wanted. I remember like when I got my screener, it's like they they had like, I got a report the social media embargo had lifted, and it's like I remember like that next day that I got emails saying, okay, please stop, go on Twitter, tell everybody we thought of it.
Yeah,
they really wanted people like put the word out on it.
My best advice is to get somebody inside and get a working relationship with them, so that the asking gets a lot easier each time. Eventually, they'll ask you. I wait for the. I don't ask to do Ballerina. She asked me. Our rep asked us. Do you think? And it's hilarious because she's always asking me. Her name is Alex. Allison. She's always asking, "Do you think you can fill this amount of seats?" I'm like, "Are you serious?" And half the time, we could fill way more than what she's asking us for. It's just, I say, "Sure, I think I can." I'm like, she knows damn well I can. I put it in a group somewhere. This shit's gonna go. But though, and a lot of times, there are certain things I can and can't do with certain promotions, like certain words. Sometimes they'll say, what are your ideas about this? And I'll send them my verbiage. Other times they'll send the verbiage for like Mission Impossible. In this last one, they had the company-wide version that they wanted everybody who gets on social media, and they'll send me a copy for my Instagram. They'll send me a copy for the channel. They'll send me a copy for Twitter because there's different hashtags, and they want you using exactly those hashtags. And you said, "Yep, I just do whatever they say," because they continue to send us to the movies. But usually for me, it changed up to like 2013 or so. I was always having to go back and forth getting these licensing stuff. But now we deal directly with companies to the point where we can kind of say, okay, this is coming out. Can I go do those? Can I go ahead and show this movie in promotion of this? And they'll say, yeah. And not only will they give us permission to show their film, they want pictures. For Godzilla versus Kong, they sent reps. The studio sent reps when we did our drive-in. The studio sent reps. You know how we get shut down for trailers and stuff like that? This is with Godzilla versus Kong, no such action. They sent a rep with their camera to make sure that I showed the trailer for Godzilla versus Kong. I told him, like, of course I'm going to show this, because we were showing Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then we showed Kong Skull Island, and then everybody got tickets. Everybody that showed up to the drive-in got tickets to it, right? So we didn't have to get permit. We didn't have to get a license to show those movies because we was in promotion. But they sent the guy down here, and I swear, you guys, he sat on the ground, aimed his little phone up, and took the picture. And you know what? But it made them happy. They gave us a crap ton of tickets. They gave us T-shirts and all kinds of stuff to, stuffed lizards and monkeys to give out to the people. I got pictures of that on Instagram. That was the very first movie that they did for us right out of COVID. And then Suicide Squad later on that year, dude, we got like a ton of stuff to give. We got baseball bats and inflatable hammers and all kinds of crazy stuff. As long as you played by their rules, they'll continue to hook you up. But yeah, when it comes to licensing now, these days you got to be really, really careful. And a lot of it is because of the internet. A lot of it is because of piracy. But a lot of it, what people don't understand is that your opinion of what a company should do is not relevant to what the company wants to do all the time. They have the right to represent their IP and their property the way that they want to. And when you do something outside of that sphere, people get real nervous because, once again, the other person, the layman, is going to see something on the scale and be like, well, he must be acting on behalf of the studio. And they're not. So yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as that. So I hope they get it sorted out. But like I said, I have a feeling that this just might not be something that Warner Brothers wants out. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter. They're never going to get approval. But that's something you find out at the beginning stages, though. Like the first thing you need to know is, hey, can we show this movie? Can we show this movie? Can we charge for this movie? Can we, what's the you got to negotiate prices. Sometimes these guys throw me a price. I was like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? How about, and I send them back a number, and then they'll send me back a number.
It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes. The last for that?
No. But it's more than I feel like paying sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm a small business. So it's just a good, it's like I said, there's a process involved when it comes to this, and you got to be sure that you go, because this is for this exact reason. This is the last thing you want to have inside of 28 is the stoppage of your event. That's the last thing you want to have, because it's really hard to come to do that again, because now if anybody who is anticipating it, they're kind of unsure whether it's going to happen at all because this, and now you got to reaffirm people that no, we got this time. It's tough. It's tough, but
well,
yeah, I was hoping that I had to give you the full on explanation because I don't want people coming at me. You just don't like I don't know who these people are. You just don't want the Schumacher cut. Listen, I don't need it, but that has nothing to do with any of this. And the only reason I'm telling you guys this is because I've been through this process. If we were at the store right now, I could show you I have to black it out because there's other information on there, but I could show you the physical receipts and the contracts and the email chains that sometimes last up to 3 months.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask, like, what is now I'm not recommending anybody do this, like, try to do like a quick turnaround on getting this, all your ducks in a row on this. What's the shortest, like, kind of time? What would you think the minimum amount of time it would take to get like this organized, like by the book?
I always recommend 90 days. However, the process doesn't always take that long.
So like 90 days, like from the intended show date.
Yeah. Now it depends. It depends on the complication of what you're doing. If it's just a standard film that a whole bunch of people always license and there's just a standard routine, you could probably do that shit in a week. But if there's something involved when it's different versions of things,
like an unreleased versions of
things, unreleased things like that, then it's a more complicated because they are going to want to know every molecule of what you're doing before they say yes or not. And sometimes you may have 3 weeks, 4 weeks of questions and answers before you get anything, before you get a no. So you have to allow, if it's a complicated something like this, you have to allow for all those things to go back and forth, and you have to prepare for a no in which your plan B is going to be for that no. Because if they say no and then they give you the reasons, and you look over your game planning and you eliminate these things that they were cautious of, and you come back with them, say, okay, we've stripped this down. This is what we're going to do. Let me get back to you 2 weeks, maybe a week. So you have to allow for the back and forth because they got a bunch of other people that are doing licensing too. So it's a long, and like I said, I'm a fucking moron. Can you imagine me going through that process? I got to take off my shoes to count to 10. And here I am, and I got my lawyer looking at it. At one point I didn't have to have her along because it was such a routine. It was once you get like the first couple of them done, it becomes copy and paste. You pick up the phone, hey, so and so, I would like a license. This is how you word it. I would like a public performance license for this movie, this version of the movie, for this window of time, this date. And there's a box on there. How much are you going to charge? I'm going to charge $20. I'm just throwing a number. $20 a ticket. Are you charging tax? Yes. What's the capacity of your venue? You put that number in there. Is this part of any other advertising or any other promotion? Are you showing movies? Is this a double feature? Are you showing another movie from another company? Evil Dead was one of the biggest ones we had to really do a lot of paperwork on and really did a lot of consensus because we did Evil Dead 1 and we did Evil Dead 2. For those of you who don't know, those are kind of from different studios. There at the time, the people who had Evil Dead 1, they only had that movie. And so we had to get a separate license from them. And they wanted to make sure they were not always cool with us showing Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness with it. They just weren't cool with that for Riverdale. I don't know why, but they would. So they'll ask you that question. And then the people who own Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are a completely different company, completely different licenses. And they want to know, are you using it to promote? Because we don't want you using our film to promote them without, our fees and all that. So they'll ask you a lot of different questions. What is, if when it was COVID, we had to give a COVID plan. We had to give a coin. We had to give all kinds, just a whole bunch of stuff. And it all depends on when, what, and where you're doing and what the IP is. Somebody wanting to show a fan film, and cost money. If somebody owns that IP, you have to get a different set of permissions, because that is an IP license. You're not licensing you're not licensing a performance. You're licensing the right to do something under their name. Now that can be done as well, but it's a long process, and you generally want to have it done. Like right now, we're working on Toxic Avenger. We plan on doing a screening sometime in August with Lloyd Kaufman, everybody out here, maybe some people from the movie, if you can talk them into it. We started that process Friday. All right. Friday was what, May 22nd?
Yeah. And it's a holiday weekend.
It's a holiday weekend, so we started that process Friday for a movie that we'll most likely be doing in mid-August. So we're 3 months, or mid to late August. So we're in a 90-day window to try to get, because I don't want to pay a bunch of money to get flyers made up. I don't want to get a bunch of, I don't want to pay some guy to dress up as Toxie. I don't want to pay money to, to get Lloyd out here, put him up, do all this stuff. And then, the studio turns around and say, your license has been denied, or we have a problem here. Because not everybody is going to be able to refund you. Some of that money, these small things, when you do these things, that's spent on the maintenance and the production of what you're doing. So if somebody comes back at you saying, well, I want to, you're just out of luck, All right, no, Lori, it's Memorial Day, but I get it. It is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial are really not supposed to be in the same sentence, because but I got you. Memorial Day. Just learned the cast of The Giant Shadow, Kirk Douglas, based on my uncle and his U.S. Air Force friends who went to fight for Israel. And then thank you for the $5 super chat. And you have another one. Thank you, and your family. Thank you. Hey, and any civilian that ever supported the military, thank you. Thank you. I mean, just because you didn't get on a plane. Yeah, if you're a family member of a service member, you're that person's support network. You're that person's tether back to home. You're with that person, stays on their toes, make sure that they don't get in an accident, make sure that they do their due diligence. Everything is to get back to you, the wife, the kid, everything else back to normalcy. So even though you didn't step foot in a battlefield, somebody in your family did, and somebody is trying to make it from that battlefield to get to you. And a lot of times people just want to see their family again, and they'll make sure, they do everything they can. So the family network is as important as anything. So thank you for the $7 of super chats here. So let's see, but does it mean I don't know. Maybe never.
This could be, again, just a matter of like, I don't think this really has any like bearing on whether or not it's going to come out in the near future.
I don't think it has bearing on whether it comes out. I think it has bearing on intent. I think if they had plans to put this out, I don't know. I don't know if they would have done this or not. But once again, I need this. I'm ignorant to this.
Well, that's why we have this big gap in like what paperwork was not filled out, what
was this version? Yeah. Was this something that was right off the Warner Brothers lot? Is this from somebody official? You know what I mean? Because if it was unofficial, then that discussion might end right there and then. If they were ever allowed to show it, it would have to be, like I said, and that's another thing. You're only allowed to show approved versions of these movies at any given time. And if you say that you're going to show this version, like the other day, if we were putting a public performance license and outside. A lot of times you can, if we showed the version that had with the Empire Strikes Back with the old lady and the big, olive straws that she was wearing or whatever that was going on, and we said we were showing the other version, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. They are very specific about that stuff, man. And you're reading these questions when they come back, you're like, dude, what do you want? What else do you want from me? Do you want me to send a blood sample? Do you want me to take a retina test? And I asked him that. I'm like, dude, what's going on? This is my security clearance for the Army didn't have this much shit on it. And she said, yeah, but she gave me a bunch of examples about how Wild Westing can get when you don't have these rules. Once you allow people to go somewhere with your IP that you don't want them to go, you never get that control back. You will be fighting for the next 25, 30 years. Once you relinquish that kind of control over your IP. So for us, the licensees, may seem like a pain in the ass, but for the licensor, I can understand where they're coming from. So to answer your question, Senior, I don't know at all. Yeah, go back and watch that one. We're not going to, after tonight, we're not recording.
And Aaron, I just saw Aaron post on Twitter, like she said she almost choked on her dinner when she was watching last night. It was a very memorable last 20 minutes last night.
But yeah, we're about to get into some stuff here. William, do you think is better, Spider-Man 2099 or Batman Beyond? That's a tie. I mean, I have gained more love for 2099 because of Into the Spider-Verse, so I'll probably break that tie with just based on that alone. Let's see. I'm just going to blow through some of these. Kevin Smith is Kevin Smith is a filmmaker, so he's got connections. He knows he can pick up the call and get permission that it would take me 3 months to get. Yeah, he does work for them, and like I said, when you're in the business, and here's another thing: when you're inside the system, you know the system to the point where you're not likely to do things out that are going to. Kevin Smith would know how to do something that's not going to misrepresent a company that he may or may not be working for in the future. Random people like us, maybe we don't know the rules. We're not inside the system. So let's see. Why was I stressed? I wasn't stressed. I was just trying to figure out where the hell you were going with all that last night. I love Batman Forever, and like I said, I could go the rest of my life without the Schumacher cut. I mean, and the Downer cut, all that stuff. I need the one that for me, when it comes to those movies, the ones that made it to the theater were the ones that were fine. Yes, rest in peace, Peter David. Let's go ahead and do we have any more comments about this particular thing? Let's see.
He was definitely my intro to Aquaman. This kid's like he set the template for Aquaman. When as a kid, we had like the long hair and the beard, the harpoon, and I think it's fair to say, I mean, Zack Snyder definitely predicated, his Aquaman very much on Peter David. The image of everything minus the harpoon. So.
Clint with the $5 too bad. The story so far, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. He's talking about Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. Thank you for the $5 super chat. All right, guys. As we opened the show, we opened it up with memoriam to Peter David. This one, like I always say, they all hurt. But as a comic book geek, as I was learning what comic books were as I was exploring comic books, Peter David, his run on certain things. So for me, by the time he had done Aquaman, he had already done, he was already in the middle of a memorable run on the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is probably that 12-year run on that comic. Other than Chris Claremont, people don't have runs like that. I can't think of any other person for a major comic book company that had that type of run and defined the comic. He defined the Gray Hulk. He defined all the multiple split personalities. He had a run on X Factor. I'm gonna bring up courtesy of Timothy Blake Donahoe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But you had of all the stuff I saw today, you had the best rundown of his top 10 things that Peter David did. And okay, Spy Boy, I have this at the store. This is an underrated thing that he did. This is published by Dark Horse. Spy Boy showcased just how silly and hilarious Peter Davis could be. The premise was about a bullied young boy who's actually the alter ego of a super spy. What would have made a basic concept was remixed and downright parody, even with the basic spy organizations reflecting humorous traditions of the well-known, well-worn genre, which is the spy. Yeah, he also did Captain Marvel. He did Genesis Marvel, his son. That was one he did. Fallen Angel. This was basically his type of Supergirl thing that he was doing. Originally published by DC Comics and tentatively set up in the DC universe, Peter Davis' Fallen Angel later jumped to fellow comic book company AEW Publishing. The protagonist was a mysterious woman named Lee, whose supernatural abilities helped her protect the city of Bet-Nore. This created sort of a paranormal cousin to the superhero genre, but a series of origins where it was basically, like I said, it was Supergirl before he was writing on it. His run on X Factor was underrated. It seemed more when he was writing it more like a Vertigo version of X Files. It wasn't the flashy mutant superhero thing that they were doing before, but it was still underrated. It was still good. The death of Gene DeWolf, a character called the Sin Eater. He created that character. This was when Spider-Man back in the mid 80s started taking like a darker turn. A character called the Sin Eater was just killing people. He was a psychopath cop that just lost his mind because of his SHIELD experience. And Jean DeWolf was like a support character that they had, and he was a friend of She was a friend of Spider-Man, and the Sin Eater kills her, and Spider-Man just was obsessed with going after this guy, and he catches him, and he's about to kill him. Spider-Man is just literally he's just he's losing it, and Daredevil stops him. Because Daredevil's looking for the Sin Eater too, and they catch him together, and he knows he cannot overpower Spider-Man, but he mentally fucks with Spider-Man and ends up actually beating Spider-Man in the storyline. But yeah, the death of Jean DeWolf, the Sin Eater saga, that was one of the critical that took place entirely in Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. 29 Spider-Man, his work on 2099, and of all the books that they released when these books came out, Spider-Man 2099 was remains to this day the most successful one of those books. Peter David I don't know, he had a good Supergirl run. I still like Woman of Tomorrow, but this was a very famous run. Young Justice was another underrated book that he did, primarily because a lot of people thought it was aimed towards kids, but it had some adult content in there. I would have flipped this and put this number one. The Incredible Hulk, the work he did on Incredible Hulk for that 12-year run, it stabilized that book. That book wasn't doing all that great prior to his run. This was the run that would bring in Sam Keith, Dale Knone, and Todd McFarlane would work on this book. Todd McFarlane would work under Peter David before he would leave Incredible Hulk and go on to Amazing Spider-Man. And this is a lot of people. I would put this number 2, but a lot of people, just like Brad, will put this number 1. His run on Aquaman is considered one because how Aquaman had been perceived up until that point. Peter David changed Aquaman into something that wasn't a joke. He was the first one that really made, and the stories, the loss of the hand, the death of the Tempest, the son, all of that stuff was things that was indicative of what Peter David would do. He would dive deep into the psyche of the character, and then he would layer a superhero over it. When you read the Hulk, his run in the Hulk, there's a lot of mental stuff going on in that. A lot of things that Bruce had to deal with that were the basis of what the Hulk was. Aquaman went from being literally a joke of a goofy guy, surfing with 2 dolphins beneath his feet and getting caught in fish nettings, to something that was,
this guy right here, like crouched over the harpoon, like, hey, like, come on, motherfucker.
and his stories became, and if you looked at the Aquaman movie and the way that Atlantis and they viewed humankind from what they were doing to the ocean, a lot of this started here, because prior to that, Aquaman had this friendly relationship with the surface world, and and it's okay, guys, we know that you don't mean it. This version of Aquaman is like, what the fuck are you people putting in the water? Stop. And he would define that character. One distinctive thing, no matter what Peter David wrote, he was on something long enough to leave an impression that would last long after he left the book. The way you look at the Immortal Hulk is probably the most different Incredible Hulk stories. But when I read Immortal Hulk, when I read those 50 issues, I saw Peter David all over that, because he was the kind of guy, and there's a handful of people that are like that. Frank Miller is like that. Chris Claremont is like that. So once they get on the book, they set a standard that remains years and years after they're gone. So Peter David has now moved on to his last project. He has left us at the age of 68. I knew I had heard he was having some health issues with his kidneys, and I know that he had a lot of tax issues. A lot of people his age have tax issues that he ended up getting himself out of. But when health issues started hit, health issues are expensive. I know people who were doing GoFundMes for him that helped raise a lot of money to help him. But apparently he passed over the weekend. And like I said, when we bring up these deaths, they're all important, no matter to what degree I knew them. Every person you lose, especially when you lose them at the age of 68, all those people are important. They leave a hole in someone's family. But as somebody growing up, when we start losing, that's why when it comes to the wrestlers, when I start losing people in my pop culture circle that are literally how I formed my opinion about things, it stings a little bit more. Like I said, when John Byrne, Chris Claremont, Frank Miller, these guys are getting up there. I hope they live another 30 years. But these are guys that literally set the tapestry that made me think, you know what? I think I might want to be. I might want to buy and read these things for the rest of my fucking life. That's the kind of difference that people like that made to me. Peter David is up there, is up there. So rest in peace, Peter David. May your work, your 40 years of work, continue to speak to people who weren't even alive when you wrote it. That's who you were, and rest in peace. So I know you read comics. Summer Peter, you obviously talked about Aquaman. Yeah. What did Peter David mean to you?
I want to pull this up right now. It's like this is from DCComics.com. It's like, this image. This was Aquaman to me as a kid. this you had Super Friends, kind of set the template for Aquaman. Longest time. Yeah. And this was what pulled me into Aquaman as a kid. I was like really getting into it was when Grant Morrison had his JLA run in the late 90s. That's when I was like really avidly like starting to get into characters like Green Lantern and the Flash, and also Aquaman. It was concurrent with the JLA run. And that was also when they had the kind of the sort of tie-in, the toy tie-in was called Absolute Justice, that I was really invested in. So yeah, this right here pretty much represents like my intro to Aquaman as a solo character, as a kid. And Peter David like really defined him for me again. The look was just like, this dude is just the ultimate like badass of the high seas. Like the hair and the beard and the harpoon, and it's like he is going to defend his underwater kingdom. And
another thing, during this run, he came into conflict with his teammates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it was just something that they wouldn't do. Like I said, I never like to say somebody does the definitive anything, but I can say that with Aquaman because no one was doing anything with him. No one was trying to define him.
Well, yeah, because he was regarded as a lame character, and then
he was on the JV bench with the Flash.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the Flash was never had fish jokes, right? So, like that.
Yeah, but he was considered the jokester, but he wasn't anybody outside the Trinity. Even though these guys are on the starting lineup, it's a difference between Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, and then Lantern and
I get
everybody else that drops up. But
this really, it's like as a kid, you're sure familiar with Grant Morrison's JLA around the late '90s. Like that set in my mind, like my perception of like really all the Justice League characters, as a team at that point. And for anybody who wasn't in the Trinity, that's what kind of set the template for me. My perception of them as solo characters, whether it's Flash or Green Lantern or Martian Manhunter or Aquaman. And where this was during that period when Peter David started his run on Aquaman, and this was what this created the image, my perception of Aquaman as as an individual character at that age. It's been that way since, like I said. I mean, you can definitely see we finally see Aquaman in live action. You can see that this dude right here on the cover was very much an influence on that.
Yeah, for me, Aquaman, his run on Aquaman was great, but I know a lot of people put it at their number one. But like that Hulk run for so many more reasons because of its longevity and its years-long deep dive into certain aspects of Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and separating the Hulk as different people, and the Gray Hulk, and just everything that he was doing with the character. When you have that, I forgot how long his run on Aquaman was. It was pretty lengthy, but when you have 12 years in going into different eras to define a character, I mean, he only stopped writing because of his health. I mean, this guy was a master. Yes, he did the Dark Tower comic books, and Jay Lee did some great artwork for that one. So,
I'm going to pull this up too in a second here. I was talking about Grant Morrison's JLA run. Because again, that was a great run. When he was on JLA, he was Grant Morrison, so it's like Grant. I mean, that dude's a legend.
He can go weird sometimes, though.
That's true. He
can go. I'm not the biggest fan of his X-Men. I'm sorry, I'm not. I get a lot of people that I'm not the biggest fan. But other things he's done has been obviously.
Here's kind of some of his Grant Morrison's JLA run. Well, I guess I didn't get that bigger, so you guys. I'm going to pull this up from Amazon. So, you can pull that up here. Okay, here we go. Are we allowed to do this? Like, pull up images from Amazon on the show? I hope we're not going to get.
Yeah, as long as you're not playing anything motion from them.
Okay. Well, yeah, this is his again his JLA, late '90s, and see if I can zoom in a little bit there. Yes, that's Aquaman's part of it. And again, Peter David's run on Aquaman going solo, that was, of course, overlapping with Grant Morrison on JLA, as a team at that point. So, yeah, this really was what formed my perception in my mind as a kid of like the Justice League as a team, and for like the individual members outside of the Trinity was the Grant Morrison JLA run, and then for like anybody who was handling the solo books, that was kind of like really what shaped it for me as an individual character. Grant Morrison or Peter David was on Aquaman, so that was what really shaped Aquaman for me. And this, of course, starts. I mean, this is like right as Superman the animated series starting, and like a couple of years before Justice League Unlimited or the Justice League Unlimited series starts. So that all really kind of segues together for like me as a up and coming superhero aficionado, like perception of the Justice League characters. But yes. Those kind of linked together because they were during the same era of like Grant Morrison's JLA and Peter David's Aquaman.
Grant Morrison's JLA. I haven't really heard the animated series ever put in the same sentence. But
what I mean by that is again, that was like comics wise what shaped my perception of the Justice League, and then a few years later we have an animated series that becomes like a massive hit, and that was seeing them outside the comics medium as a team, and it was like, okay, we're just waiting on the movie now, and then we all want to have with that.
Yeah, I wish Grant Morrison had wrote Batman the animated series, or Frank Miller had wrote Batman the animated series. I think it would have been I think would have been. I think I would view those things differently if there were adults in the room. Nothing against Tim's and all those guys, but they were given a directive that I don't think Frank Miller would have been like, I'm sorry, we're going to have to tear all this up. But see, Bruce Timm, but he even said, I did what they allowed me to do. So, and then when you see you see the stuff he did from Amazon, you see all that kind of stuff like that, you kind of see the gloves are being taken off. So I actually want to see what that guy would do with a Batman the Animated Series released like now.
Bruce Timm? Well, we're kind of seeing that with the Amazon one.
But a little bit more contemporary. I would like to see him do, just out of curiosity, to see what that guy could do without the restraints of the show.
Aaron's got to, or Ray has got to go in here. Imagine Aquaman versus Lobo in a movie scene. Gunn might be just mad enough to make it happen. Yeah,
I think that's definitely. If that doesn't, I think that's something he would definitely do.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, imagine if like that's like the multiverse payoff of like all this. It's like, okay, Momoa over here, Momoa over here. You're Aquaman over here. You're Lobo over here. Like,
and then there's your Flash that knows both of them.
Yeah. Well, imagine they're recreating also like the Flash of 2 Earths image, and it has Lobo and Aquaman, and they're like coming through with a wall on either side.
I'm gonna get a healthy diet of Lobo, a character I absolutely cannot stand.
What? Okay, let's go ahead and like
poor man's Wolverine.
Well, let's go. Well, he did. Okay, take some consolation in DC versus Marvel. He did lose to Wolverine in that.
First of all, I don't think consolation in DC versus Marvel at all existing. So that's not a good start. But I just viewed him as a poor man's Wolverine, right down to the cheap cigar. It was so blatant. Even Keith Giffen was like, yeah, of course it was. Because guess who was selling at the time? Wolverine.
Well, let's like actually. Let's put some odds on this. Like, what do you like? And let's go with like a 5-year sort of window on this. Like, what do you think in the next 5 years the odds are that we will see Jason Momoa's Aquaman meet Jason Momoa's Lobo?
Oh, I think it's 70%.
Think so?
There's no way he's not going to do that. That's the kind of goofball, James. That's some goofball shit that James Gunn would have fun doing.
Well,
and why not? I would be disappointed. I would be disappointed if he did not do that.
Well,
completely disappointed if he did not do that. I'm like, come on, you got to post.
And see, here's the thing too, is like that might, because we've also talked about on here, like you think he's the guy crazy enough to actually pay off the Flash scene for Crisis. So imagine if like that's like something that's extrapolated from that.
Yeah,
it's like it's the payoff for the Flash Crisis scene, and then it somehow involves like Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Lobo meeting.
And like I said, James Gunn is going to do some stuff that's just going to be like, that's not for me. But overall, it's kind of fun having somebody who thinks like a geek making things for geeks. We have never ever had that at the executive level of any of these studios, because Kevin Feige is brilliant, but he thinks like a studio exec. He knows this stuff. He's good at it because he's been doing it for so long. But James Gunn is a guy who read this stuff. He's pulling these stories from things that inspired him as a reader. Now, granted, I'm not on board with some of this stuff, and you're pulling this JLI shit, but that's fine. That's fine. That's your take on it. But this is the first time we've had somebody that is thinking, at least that's in the same room with us. Mission Impossible pulled in $204 million this weekend.
Awesome.
That's a lot of.
No, you froze, man. It's probably gonna.
It's a delayed freeze too, because while you were saying I was frozen, I wasn't frozen. Then it does that circle shit. It's fucking stream. Well, that's just off topic because I had my Wikipedia up.
Yes,
all right.
Well, yes, Rhea, this would be pretty awesome, and I mean, yeah, that I don't know. It's like what odds do I want to give to? Because William is like, again, you've been very emphatic. Like he's going to be the guy to pay off Flash being Flash. He's going to bring Ezra's Flash in some kind of like.
Yeah, even if it's
cameo
just
capacity,
and he's somebody's body, I think.
And then Jason as his 2 DC characters face to face. If he does all this, it's like he's gonna he's gonna reverse so many years of like just self-inflicted bad will the studio has had.
That cannot be the reason if he does it. That cannot be why he does it though. He should do it because he's having fun. I think James Gunn, the best thing for James Gunn, if you're watching, and you may be because we have a mutual. The best thing James Gunn can do for right now is not to regard us. not to regard us right now. At some point in time, there will be a time and place for you to give a shit about, what I like and what I watch and all that. There will be a time and place. But for right now, maybe your first 2 to 3 years, do not look back. Do not look back. There's nothing here behind you right now. As you build your thing and as you're having the fun and you decide for fun's sake to look back and say, wouldn't this be cool? Whenever that time is, would be the right time. But at the beginning of all this, and I'm saying this as somebody who prefers a particular type of ending, I'm saying ignore me. Ignore me right now, because there's nothing good for you behind you right now. There's nothing good for you. Go forward what you're going to do, and when the time is right, and we'll all know it, he'll know it as a geek, then we do something. But I think for the time being, the best thing he could do, don't answer no Snyder questions until you're ready. Don't answer any of that stuff. The nightmare, all that stuff I want to happen, not yet. When you're ready, when you got a couple wins under your belt, then you turn around and look at, some of the stuff that we put in the closet for a couple of years. Till then, though, the worst thing you could do is try to drive your motorcycle with your head turned this way, because you're going to crash. So that's my advice to him. If he, the fucking filmmaker, needs my advice. No. Deadpool is something different. Low.
And he's frozen again.
See, that's not an internet thing. That's a stream right there.
StreamYard being a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because I'm on the highest internet I got. I can see my levels. But no, DC's equivalent. No, he was DC's equivalent to Wolverine. People don't believe that, but you look up the history behind Lobo. Local Wool was out. Wolverine the miniseries was coming out right around that time. I think it was the way he wanted to. I can't remember, but when Wolverine started carrying the cigar and having the weird hair and all that, here comes Lobo. When Wolverine started walking around without his mask, for a lot of his stories, here comes Lobo. And I'm like, okay, fine. You was inspired by something else. It was lame. So great. Yeah, now I get Lobo and then all the other JLA nonsense or JLI nonsense that I'm going to get, but I'm fine for it. I'm fine. Just like I said, I don't love Keith Giffen any less for creating Lobo or doing JLI. I just, this kind of stuff that wasn't for me, All right, guys, let's see. Imagine if they were an old man to be Henry Cavill, the internet will blow up. That would be hilarious. That's not off the table, though. I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, be ready. Don't do it as a gimmick. Do it as something that's going to relate to tie back. Don't do the George Clooney thing.
And see, here's the other thing too: is like if something like this, like the Henry Ultraman thing, is something we're going to see in the next 6 weeks or so. I mean, that really raises questions about like how many NDAs have had to be signed for the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, that's like because I
know Millie Alcock has one. She can't sign. She can't.
Well, yeah, but they've had to operate under this. If this is what they were doing, or then they will have had to facilitate this under the perception that something like this is absolutely not going to happen for 2.5 years now.
Or they could have filmed Ultraman scene and not added him until whoever it is until the last of it. All right, NXT.
Wait, real quick for Aaron. Is anyone called Lobo? Lobo is actually the Spanish word for wolf.
The wolf.
Yeah.
It's wolf. Yeah. Los Lobos. All right. So NXT Battleground. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of NXT. The only reason I watched it tonight was because Joe Hendry was facing Trick Williams. But there were some good matches on there. I'm only going to talk about a couple of them. So Roca did some really crazy shit with Kalani Jordan, women's match for the NXT North American title. She retained. Let's see. Stephanie McCurry defeated Jordan Grace by pinfall to retain her title. Obi Femi defeated Miles Bourne. That was a really good match. The match I was even giving me rat's ass about NXT where it was because Trick Williams defeated Joe Hendry by pinfall. And you guys know that I'm a huge TNA fan. I love Joe Hendry. I've had him sign my belt. Yeah, he's a cool dude, and I've been with TNA as far as a fan since their inception in 2002. Man, the internet went crazy. Of course, that's what the internet does. He just jobbed to an NXT dude. This is a horrible partnership. This is probably TNA's idea. You know why? Because it gets more eyes on their product than they've ever had on there. This partnership with NXT WWE is a win-win situation no matter how you cut it for TNA, because they don't even have a great TV deal. You either got to watch them on TNA Plus, or if you're not in the area that carries Access TV, then you can't see them. So you are attached, even though it's NXT. NXT is in way more households than TNA is, and they're attached to a mega company like WWE. So the whole thing when Randy Orton, RKO'd him and beat him in like 2 minutes, people were like, that's horrible. I can't believe. No. Joe Hendry was on WrestleMania with the TNA title. You know how many people Googled Joe Hendry and TNA title? If they already knew who he was. So he was already over. So yeah. So now with Trick, now would I have scripted this way? Nah. Because I like Joe Hendry. But now what this sets up is now Slammiversary is coming around the corner. Somebody from WWE/NXT now has to come into your pay-per-view with your title, and it'll probably job to your guy, and that's going to pop big numbers for them. So NXT Battleground has some good matches, but for the most part, I was just watching. It for that match. All right, AEW Double or Nothing. This is bittersweet for me because this is the first time in a long time that I was not at AEW's Double or Nothing, and it hurt. And I'm going to see all the memories and stuff on my timeline for where I was at this year and where I was at 2 years ago, and it was all going to be at Double or Nothing. And the fact that I wasn't there because of WrestleMania, and they felt they needed to move it, and it's kind of sucks for me. But here you go. All right, Anna Jay and Hardy Cameron defeated Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford by pinfall. Megan Bayne is like 6 feet tall. She's an Amazon. She can wrestle. It was a fun match to watch. They did a fun match. This was the buy-in. I'm going to skip the Bandito AR Fox because that was an 8-man tag. Mercedes Moné defeated Jamie Hayter by pinfall. That was the setup for the Owen Cup. She won the Owen Cup, and now she gets a shot at All In Texas against Tony Storm. FDR, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood with Stokely defeated Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness with Maynard by technical submission. Ricochet defeated Mark Briscoe in an amazing match. The Hurt Syndicate and Shelton Benjamin defeated the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guerrero by pinfall. That was a title match. Okada defeated Speedball Mike Bailey in one of the best matches of the night. Tony Storm defeated Mina Shirakara by pinfall. Another strong match. All these matches were strong. All right, this is the one that was absolutely bonkers, and this is coming from somebody who has been at 2 Anarchy in the Arena matches. Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale. This was the first one that had women in it. Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Shibata defeated the Death Riders, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir, Wilder Yuta, and the Young Bucks. Dude, they did some crazy shit in this match. I don't know what Kenny Omega was trying to accomplish tonight or prove that he can be paralyzed or die, because he was doing some crazy stuff from places you couldn't even see him at when he was jumping from them. All kinds of crazy stuff was involved. Like last year, I was there in person and Darby Allin set Matt Jackson on fire. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But this match was completely crazy. A lot of crazy spots, a lot of people going through tables, a lot of people. Swerve Strickland took off his wrestling boots and put on his signature shoes that had thumbtacks glued to them, and he did the swerve stomp and got the pin. This whole thing was just crazy. They were all over the arena. The squad was called Anarchy in the Arena. And this was one of the shorter, this was 35 minutes. The last one was almost a full hour. This one was 35 minutes. Callis family defeated Paragon, Adam Cole. That was a filler match. Best match of the night, one of the best matches of the year. Hangman Adam Page defeated Will Ospreay by pinfall. I was shocked. I thought Will Ospreay was going into All In as the Owen Hart champion. They decided it's going to be Adam Page, who is as over as anybody else. And this is in Texas. He does cowboy shit. He's going to do well there. Yeah, it was. Oh yeah. That was hilarious. I love this pay-per-view. And like I said, it's one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year that they put out. And like I said, it's just so weird watching it and not being there. Wasn't expecting Austin. I wasn't either. I thought they were going to book that differently. But now Hangman, he has to. Whoever was going to win this match has to beat Mox. This Death Riders thing has gone on too long. And it kind of sucks that I got to wait till July 11th or July 12th because that's the day after Superman. But we are less than 6 weeks away from the Death Riders going away. All right, guys. There was really writing on the wall that there was going to be an intergender tag title. Look at Kennedy and Maria wrestling in the ring. I think there's going to be a women's tag title. I don't know if there's an intergender yet. I haven't heard the official announcement, but I would rather them give the women a tag title than do intergender. What's that? Oh. Okay. Let's see. So that's my wrestling talk. So we covered a lot tonight. We usually don't cover this much in our Sunday show, yeah. But we had the passing of Peter David. We had 2 wrestling events, and just felt like covering that. Let's see. So we
also had to give people a little bit of context for how weird the ending of the last night show was.
Yeah. Just go ahead and skip that show. Well, I'm going to leave it up there for you guys.
No, I went back. Like 5 minutes later, I pulled it up last night. I watched that last 20 minutes again. I was just
I watched it today at the store, and it was painful, man. I was like, oh, I had my hand on the edit button, and I'm like, what do I want to do here? Do I want to? Because you know how you can just chop it out, and I was ready to just chop that whole thing out. But like I said, it will serve as a answer to no, we're not doing open panel. All right, so there you go.
We had a good open panel when we did the the Empire Strikes Back watch party.
Yeah, and I flirted. I tempted fate. That's what I did.
I mean, also when we do watch parties, I mean, it's just not as fun if it's you and me. So.
Yeah, but that's not an open panel though. That's a dedicated panel. Open panels when we just let crazy people on, and we just don't know what the fuck's going to come out of their mouth because we don't have a topic or a structure. So, but like I said, the other time I did it a couple of weeks ago, if we ever do open panels again, it's going to be you got 5 minutes. I don't care, 5 minutes, bam, you're gone. And that could solve some things because if you know you only got 5 minutes, you're going to cut to the chase, and maybe some of the crazy shit will get chopped off. Who knows? Yeah, that whole pay-per-view is going to be great. That whole pay-per-view is going to be excellent. All in. You got I don't know who's the tag team situation is going to be, but I know. I mean, I got Will Ospreay. I don't know who Will Ospreay is facing now. Somebody was saying they want him to see Darby Allin, but I'm like, I wouldn't mind that match. That's an awesome match. I think Kenny Omega is going to face Okada. And I think they're going to combine those belts. I think the Continental title is going away. I think the only reason Okada has held on to that belt so long is so that they could get to a unification match, a title for title match with Kenny Omega. And that's going to be an all-time match. Whoever Okada, I don't know who Okada is facing. I'm not Okada, but Gabe Kidd's facing. I'm not Gabe Kidd, but Will Ospreay. Gabe Kidd, I hear he was there messing up that match. I need to see, and I know we're going to get this probably after All In, another match with Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega. That's the best match of the year, guys. If you don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, but you only Google, YouTube, find that match. I stayed up 2 a.m. in the morning to watch that match, and it did not disappoint me. And when I met Gabe Kidd at WrestleCon, by the way, he's nothing like he is on air. He's nothing. Don't go up to him looking for that foul mouth, crazy Conor McGregor type guy. He is nothing like that in real person. You meet him, he's a kind guy. I went up to him. I told him, dude, I stayed up 2 a.m. in the morning to watch that symphony of violence that you put on at Wrestle Kingdom. and he was very grateful to hear that. Wrestlers they want to hear from you guys, not the crazy shit, but they want to hear, that blood, sweat, and tears. He bled, he definitely bled in that match. When they go out there and they leave lesser beings because they got the bruises and the scars, every now and then walk up to a wrestler and say, "Hey, I appreciated that moment. I appreciated that moment. You gave me," and I told him, "You gave me," and a lot of people at Ricky the Dragon Steamboat Macho Man moment. And he responded to me with Stone Cold Steve Austin Bret Hart moment. That was what he got excited. You go to these conventions, and wrestling conventions are different than like Comic-Con, where you're waiting in the line, sign, get out the way. If they're just walking around. Sandman was walking around with a kendo stick, just standing in the middle of the aisle. And I'm like, that's the Sandman. I walked up to him, shook his hand, man. I appreciate your career. You walk up to these guys and you start talking wrestling. They don't want to talk wrestling when they're not in the wrestling environment, obviously, just like anybody doesn't want to talk shop when they're not in the shop. But when you're at WrestleCon, you're surrounded by it, they want to talk. Some of these guys, you don't realize that Kurt Angle had a table that nobody was at because Ric Flair and everybody else was at the other end, so they had him blocked off, right? So you couldn't see. I said, fucking Kurt Angle. It is not a line. Walked up to him, shook his hand, man. I'm like, dude, legit gold medalist, right, sitting right there. Some of these guys, you just walk up, because there's so much going on at that convention that you can walk up to really, really famous people, shake their hands, and talk for them for a little bit until a line starts forming. And all of a sudden you look behind you, there's a line because people realize, oh, that's so-and-so. And then, so yeah, Gabe Kidd, dude, best match of the year. I need to see, here's two matches I need to see again, and they both involve Kenny Omega. I need to see the third leg of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. I need to see that match. That Wrestle Kingdom match and the Forbidden Door back-to-back matches that they did were some of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. I need to see Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega. I also need to see Josh Alexander versus Will Ospreay. I saw that match live here in Vegas when they stopped over from TNA, and I met Josh Alexander outside of the walkway, and he's just leaving with Jay Chung, his wife, and I just shook his hand. I'm like, dude, everything you went in there, because he went through tables, he went through everything. They put on a terrifying match to watch in public. It's the best match I've ever, and I told him, best match I've ever watched live. And shook my hand, took some pictures, and wrestlers are cool, man. Wrestlers are cool. All right. Yeah, Timeless Tony's up. She's hilarious, dude. Some of the stuff she says, the sleazy shit she says, they allow her to get away with it, and just because she is who she is. Let's see. Why would the Ultraman be Black Adam, James? Well, that doesn't make any sense. And the movie didn't bomb because of Black Adam. The movie bombed because of horrible mismanagement for another day. But why would Black Adam wouldn't be Ultraman is somebody equivalent to Superman, but not magically though. So yeah.
Ultraman is he's like Bizarro. He's a doppelganger of Superman. So
I hate Bizarro.
He's a doppelganger of Superman.
No, there's a difference between a doppelganger and a clone. Ultraman is a clone, or not a clone, but he is a alternate reality Superman. That's different than that because Bizarro, other than his intentions, Ultraman is no physically different than Superman. Bizarro is physically different from Superman. There's different circumstances there. So yeah, people keep saying, guys, stop bringing up Bizarro and Ultraman together. Where is this coming from? Did I miss something? Maybe I missed something. Stop.
I think a lot of people just kind of blur together for a lot of people because they're like,
but they don't
versions of Superman.
They don't. There's nothing other than the S, and Ultraman, depending on what version, it's not even an S. It's a U. So, and it's a U with a Kryptonian U. So I've never seen the connection that people make between Ultraman and Bizarro. Bizarro is clearly something different. Ultraman is literally an evil version in most interpretations. Bizarro's not even inherently evil. If depending on who's writing him, he just is. He has no real intent. You know, but he came from that universe. So, but the Ultraman has evil intentions. He's evil, straight up. All right. I see now. I'm not built for open panel. You guys stay on topic and quickly move. Not just you. I know it sounds like we're picking on you, Omega, because you know you're kind of out there, but that's fine. Before I even knew who you were, I wasn't a big fan of open panels. I watch other shows that do them, and it just makes me want to turn them off. I'm on one Friday nights, but it has to be handled. I'm not Dave. I'm not the film. The film junkie does a excellent job of controlling the pace, the flow, and the tenor of the vodka stream. He also has a group of people that he knows, you know, are going to, you know, he's not going to predict what we are going to say, but he feels comfortable enough to know that even some of the unpredictable stuff answers we might give are not going to, you know, misrepresent the vodka stream. Whereas with me, I just a little bit different. It's just a different. It has, like you said, individually nothing to do with you like that, Omega. Even though I'll use that as an example, there are plenty of other open panels I can use as an example. I'm just not an open panel guy because, like I said, I structure the show to present as a presentation to you. And there are certain parts of the show that I really would want you to think about and really want you to take away. So when you think back on last night's show, you're thinking of Stone Temple Pilots. You're thinking of the myriad of musical things that we talked about. All those links I put into the chat. You're thinking about Superman Unlimited. You're thinking about that. And when you have open panels, depending on how they go, if they're not structured right, then that becomes a dominant memory of the show. And then I just wasted 3.5, 4 hours putting the show together. So nothing personally against you, but generally I was never a big open panel guy. I don't mind being on some of them, but for the most part, I'm just not a big fan of those. So yeah, don't take it too personally. Let's see. Yeah, I don't even. That's not but that's not a random open panel though. They've been on the show before, and I've talked with those people on several different platforms, both in person and online. There are no unpredictable elements when I bring. That's as much unpredictability as Brad. You know, there are certain people who I am accustomed to the way they conduct themselves to the point where I know that the show is going to come out and be representative of what we were going for. Whereas when I just let random person here or there in, I don't know what I'm getting. And then it could transform the show into something that it didn't intend it to be. That's underwhelming if it's David. Some people will be, but if he's going by canon, then that's who it would be. I mean, but he doesn't have to. That's the one thing. I read the comic. That's the comic. He does not have to. He could put fucking Carrot Top under that mask. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say that too loud because that's some crazy shit he would do. But it can be. This is his version of the story now. It does not have to be exact. Anything he wants.
Do you think also, and this is something else kind of occurred to me, that he might, like when they start doing like the premiere press screenings for this, that he might do something kind of similar to what was done with the Flash, where like when you saw the Flash in one of the early showings, it cut right where Barry says, "Who the fuck is this?" They didn't show you it was Clooney he was looking at. Do you expect that he might do something like that, where it's like it shows you the movie up to a point, and there's like some big reveal that isn't revealed until it's out publicly?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no indication that that's the case. But we're still a ways away too. I didn't start finding out that stuff about the Flash until I sent people to it, because I sent people to versions that I didn't see. So some people I sent saw that version, and when I went, I saw a different version. So they were doing a lot of different things. And by the way, people saying that well, they did so many viewings of Flash and they lost. They didn't. That came up to like 2 million. 2 million, and all those screenings added up to about $2 million. I doubt anybody would have been squawking if the Flash would have came out $2 million short. Mm-hmm. So now we're I don't think that'll be a problem with Whose inclusion? Oh, yeah, you have Ultraman. Like I said, I have to see the movie in order to get final judgment. I will give my review on Mission Impossible tomorrow because I'm seeing it tomorrow. Apparently, a lot of people like it. Now, I need to hear a little bit more about this $400 million budget because I can't believe that they spent $400 million on that budget. But even if they did, they made half of it back this weekend. So. And it's getting a China release. I think did it open in China today? Or did it open in China?
I don't think it has, but I don't think it has yet. But they definitely if you get China release because that's a pretty big market. Although even with that though, it's like a lot of like American like blockbusters. They don't. I mean, like back with like Aquaman did like a third of its total business in China, and that doesn't happen at like that level anymore. It's like they're at a lot of American movies that come in there. They kind of they don't flop, but it's like they don't like blow.
Well, they're not prioritized either. They're not prioritized because remember, China has their own movies too that that they kind of fix the market against us in because they want people coming to see them.
Yeah, they have their own movies with Kung Fu in them.
Not always.
I know. I just said that because it's like
if you look at China movies, they're just like I mean, not all Chinese is kind of crazy stereotype, by the way.
No,
but
I'm well aware. I just said that because like I worked Kung Fu in the show.
Yeah, whatever. But no, China has their own movies. They have their own megastars that they consider megastars. They will use U.S. movies to draw people in the theaters to see those movies, but they take a huge cut too. I mean, they take way more than the theaters.
Oh yeah. That's why anything that does get like stateside produced like gets released in China, to get the most bang for. That's why when Aquaman did like 300 in China took like 225 of that. I mean, they take like 75% of it, which is a much bigger cut. So it's like if you want to like turn a good profit from release in China, you really have to break out big.
Yeah. Tom Cruise gets 75. Yeah, he gets first dollar. But you know what? He's Tom Cruise. That movie makes no money without him, so he can have that kind of leverage.
Well, I mean, when you're hanging off an airplane with one hand, I'd say that's pretty well deserved. It's your payday.
The tariffs have been reduced to a certain percentage, and I don't think they affect everything. I don't want to get into that because
that's what Aaron's asking about that. The other tariffs they keep getting kicked down the road too. It's
Well, he's got a 10 to 15% on across the board. I don't know if it affects movies as a consumable though, so I got to look at that up. So this whole tariff thing is so confusing. And now, guess what? Even if you hold back on certain tariffs, the introduction of tariffs in the conversation is enough to tank something. So, all right, guys, I think that's where we're going to leave it. I got to go eat. I am going to sleep in tomorrow. I'm going to let my worker run the show. The Sci-Fi Center is open on Memorial Day. Military, you show your military ID, and you are going to get a hefty discount that you'll see once you get to the store. And for everybody else, I will not be on the air tomorrow because it's Monday. And hopefully there's nothing newsworthy. It's a Memorial Day. Try to relax, people. Please try not to die. How about that? It's a minimum requirement. I don't want to open up the show with another memoriam, especially unless you're 101 years old or you just, you did it all. But I don't want to open a show with anybody's life cut short tomorrow. God damn it.
Absolutely.
He's here. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you for the 63 that we were watching on this Sunday evening, Monday morning. If you are watching us, I'll do this one thing real quick. I should have had this up already. I always forget that so many of you are watching on that other place. If you're at that other place right now, here's where I here's where you help us. Here's where you help us the most. Here's home base here, youtube.com/the Sci-Fi Center. Or you can go to my landing page in the description, and all of our social media is there, and you'll find that our page is there, the shows are there. So if you are watching this show right now, whether you're watching it on delay or anywhere else, if you could please go to that URL down below our heads, hit the like, subscribe button. I'm gonna go ahead and say hit the alert button. Who knows? It's like bingo. Maybe you'll get alerted, maybe you won't. Who knows? But go ahead and hit it anyway, just to be on the safe side. And join us here. Like I said, YouTube kind of takes care of us. X, we don't really build the channel there. So come here and have fun. And on that note, have a good Monday. It's a holiday Monday, so it'll be a good one. Eat some barbecue, play some sports, have some fun. But remember, Memorial Day, the 1% of us that will ever serve this country, this is for them. This is for the people at Arlington. This is for the people at all the veterans memorial places, the cemeteries, and that have folded flags. This is for them. While you're celebrating and paying respect, remember what this holiday is about. It is a solemn holiday. Veterans Day, you can walk up to me and high five. Happy Veterans Day. This one is a memorial. Treat this one as a memorial. And then, you know what? You can eat food at wakes and funerals and all that. I've been to funerals. There's food. So don't feel ashamed to celebrate and have some fun. But just remember, man, anybody who's ever been to a military funeral, Memorial Day hits you in a different way. And I've been to one. I never want to go through anything like that again. And I don't wish that on anybody. Well, the worst thing I've ever had to go through in life. That wasn't physical pain. All right, guys. So, dude, first of all,
minutes.
why are you just waking up at 4:45 in the morning? But 45 minutes. I don't think I got 45 minutes of stuff to talk about. All right, guys, that is it. We will see you Tuesday. I will probably have my Mission Impossible, but even though it's late, I will have it because I just haven't had the time. And we'll talk about.
We look forward to how close it comes to Mission Impossible 2.
Sure. Go tag Scott McCullough. Go look at his list.
Oh, we've already had it back and forth on it.
That's hilarious. I love it. As soon as I saw that list, I'm like, oh man, Brad.
I shared my article. He was on top of me on Veron. I'm like, I gotta like you guys. So
Brad is rolling in his grave at that bottom one, and I'm like, you go, Scott. All right, guys, have a great Memorial Day. But remember why we have the day off from school. Well, you should be out of school. Aren't you guys out of school now?
You're watching our show. You should be, hopefully.
Yeah, if you're watching, you should be out of school. But in any event, yeah, we will see you Tuesday night, roughly 11:30. Eat some prime rib for me. Oh, now look at StreamYard. What the? All right, you know what? Now we play a game that'll probably begin and end every damn show. What's going to happen when I push the tab?